The cameras flash, the crowd freezes, the shutter clicks a dozen times a second, and just like that, Hollywood has its brand new obsession.
It's really the ultimate erasure of a person's actual reality.
Completely. Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today's deep dive is incredibly fascinating. We are centering everything around this one massive headline: Alia Shawkat reveals truth about those Brad Pitt dating rumors.
Right, because I want you, the listener, to just put yourself in the center of that blinding spotlight for a second. Imagine you've been this highly successful working professional for 20 years. You've honed your craft, right?
Yeah, you've built this whole rich, multifaceted life.
Exactly. And then you wake up one morning to find out that the entire world suddenly cares about you for one reason and one reason only, which is that you were spotted standing next to the high school prom king.
It is just, decades of hard work are instantly replaced by this media-manufactured narrative. The tabloid formula, it just demands a leading man, it demands his new girl, and reality gets completely overwritten.
It's wild. So today we're really tracing how this casual friendship morphed into a global spectacle. But we aren't just recounting the gossip.
No, definitely not. We're unpacking the actual mechanics of celebrity obsession.
Yeah, and to do that, we have our stack of entertainment articles chronicling the frenzy, but we're pairing them with something really unique. It's a peer-reviewed academic paper from the Journal of Research and Reviews in Social Sciences, Pakistan.
Which is such a brilliant contrast, by the way.
It really is. It investigates the psychological impact and the sheer economics of paparazzi intrusion. So by the end of this deep dive, we want to uncover how this relentless machine impacts the humans caught inside it and, what drives our own insatiable appetite for these invasive stories.
I think the contrast between the Hollywood reality and the academic analysis is what makes this so revealing. Because the Alia Shawkat and Brad Pitt saga is the perfect case study.
Oh, for sure.
The inciting incidents were, almost hilariously unremarkable.
Right. Let's just establish the actual reality first. So late 2019, early 2020, they were introduced by a mutual friend, the director Spike Jonze.
Which makes perfect sense.
Totally organic.
Yay.
It was rooted in this shared passion for fine art. Brad Pitt is famously super interested in the art world. And Alia Shawkat, beyond her acting career, she's an accomplished painter.
Yeah, she regularly showcases her work in galleries.
Right, so two artists meet through a friend and start going to art-related events together.
Which is entirely logical. But the tabloid machine, it simply cannot process a platonic intellectual relationship between an older Hollywood heartthrob and a younger indie actress.
It really can't. And the outings they went on were just so incredibly mundane. They weren't stumbling out of a VIP club on the Sunset Strip at 3 in the morning.
No, not at all.
They were seen looking at exhibits at an LA art show, the Wilding Cran Gallery. They went to comedian Mike Birbiglia's one-man theater show.
Oh, and Kanye West's opera Nebuchadnezzar.
Yes. And perhaps my absolute favorite detail, they were spotted grabbing burgers at an In-N-Out.
Right, but that mundanity is precisely why the media had to spin a romance. Because, a nuanced article about two artists discussing technique over fast food that does not generate television rating points.
No, it doesn't sell magazines.
Exactly. The media industry relies so heavily on these recognizable, easily digestible archetypes. And Brad Pitt is the ultimate archetype of the leading man.
He really is. So when any woman enters his orbit, they just deploy the romantic story.
Because Brad's new girl requires zero cognitive effort from the consumer. They just see the headline and they click.
I have to say, looking at all this, I just feel this overwhelming sense of frustration on Alia's behalf. It's as if you spent 20 years training to become a Michelin star chef, mastering complex techniques, running your own kitchens. And then the only thing anyone ever wants to talk about is the time you shared a taxi with Gordon Ramsay.
Honestly, that's a perfect way to capture the sheer asymmetry of the whole situation.
It's infuriating. Why does society instantly erase a woman's impressive 2-decade career? We are talking about someone who played the iconic Maybe Funk on Arrested Development.
Right, a beloved character.
And she starred in the critically acclaimed series Search Party. She is a bisexual Arab American actress, a painter, a jazz singer, and all of that complex identity gets completely flattened into just the girl standing next to the famous older man.
It really does. And it happens because the paparazzi and the tabloid ecosystems, they act almost like rogue market correctors in a financial exchange.
Wait, how do you mean?
Think about it this way. A celebrity's PR team works tirelessly to artificially inflate the stock of their client, right? They manage the brand, they release curated statements, set up controlled photo shoots.
So I see.
Yeah, and the paparazzi aggressively short that stock by capturing the messy, uncurated, or in this case, completely fabricated reality. They just strip away the complex human being and replace it with a one-dimensional character that fits a soap opera narrative.
And the consumers just buy into it eagerly. And buy into it they did, especially since this frenzy peaked right as the COVID-19 pandemic was taking hold in early 2020.
People were definitely vulnerable.
Yeah, the world was plunging into this unprecedented anxiety, and people were absolutely starved for distraction. But that's not even the wildest part. Later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking twist regarding how the paparazzi industry actually sustains itself, which nobody saw coming.
Yeah, you definitely want to stick around for that.
If you're loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed, because we've got even crazier stories ahead. But getting back to it, what fascinated me most was how Pitt and Shawkat reacted to the sudden swarm of photographers. The contrast is staggering.
It is a masterclass in the relativity of fame, because Brad Pitt's reaction was essentially just total obliviousness.
He genuinely didn't know.
No. When Shawkat eventually brought the chaos up to him, when she had to say, hey, you do realize the entire world thinks we're dating, and I currently have grown men with cameras stalking me, he had absolutely no idea.
Because, as she pointed out, he doesn't read any of it. He has lived inside the blinding flash of the cameras for so many decades that the paparazzi are basically just the weather to him.
Yeah, it's just an environmental condition. He even apologized to her and casually said, if you hang out with me, it happens.
Wow.
He has completely normalized the intrusion. But for Alia Shawkat, who had built this really successful indie career largely outside the glare of mainstream tabloids, it was a massive, terrifying shock to the system.
She used words like weird and terrifying. She explicitly said the experience was, quote, not fun at all. And she really acutely felt that Michelin star chef frustration we talked about.
Oh, absolutely.
She called it gross and stupid, that simply being in the proximity of an older white man garnered her more global attention than her entire established body of work. She just never had to deal with aggressive paparazzi before because, frankly, they didn't care who she was.
Until she became valuable to their narrative. And the sheer reach of that manufactured narrative is astounding. It didn't just stay in the Hollywood Hills.
Yeah.
It penetrated deep into private, completely disconnected lives.
Which perfectly leads into the funniest, yet maybe the most telling anecdote from this entire ordeal. It involves Shawkat's Iraqi Muslim grandmother.
Oh, this story is amazing.
It's so good. So this is a woman who has lived in the United States for over 30 years, but still barely speaks English. One day, Alia goes over to visit her. Her grandma is sitting in the living room watching a Turkish soap opera on TV.
Just a normal afternoon.
Right. But resting right next to her on the table is a physical copy of Us Weekly.
Let me guess. Featuring a massive, inescapable photograph of the two of them.
Yep.
It's Alia's face, put in a little red circle right next to Brad Pitt's face. The headline is literally screaming Brad's new girl.
And they completely fabricated the details, didn't they?
Oh, totally. The publication had actually gone through the trouble of digging up old, completely unrelated Instagram photos of Alia having dinner with her own friends, and they spun this massive fictional narrative about how she and Brad were healing each other and spending all this intimate time together.
The level of fabrication required to construct that out of thin air is just a testament to the economic engine behind these magazines.
So Alia is sitting there absolutely mortified. She's telling her grandmother, you have to throw this trash away. It's all fake. It's embarrassing. And her grandmother's reaction.
Got that right.
She just laughs. She is absolutely thrilled. She points at the magazine and says, it's you in this movie star.
Yeah.
And it's your face.
That is just a wonderfully lighthearted family moment. But if you look closer, it perfectly illustrates the ruthless efficiency of the paparazzi industry.
What do you mean? Well, the product they created. A candid photo paired with a sensationalized archetype. It successfully traveled from a sidewalk in Los Angeles all the way into the living room of an elderly Iraqi woman who doesn't even speak the language the article is written in.
Oh, wow. That's a great point.
The image alone transcends language. The narrative of the prom king and the new girl is universally understood.
That feeling Alia had, though, that feeling of being hunted, of having her life commodified and exported globally, it isn't just a quirky Hollywood side effect.
No, not at all.
It is a calculated psychological tactic that drives a massive shadow economy. And this is where our academic source completely reframes the conversation. Because when researchers at Kinnair College for Women in Lahore, Pakistan, looked at this phenomenon, they stripped away all the Hollywood glamour.
They really exposed the raw mechanics of media intrusion. The study, which is titled The Role of Paparazzi in the Lives of Pakistani Celebrities, is vital because it proves this isn't an isolated Western phenomenon.
It's universally human.
Exactly. The researchers conducted in-depth interviews with highly prominent Pakistani figures, including the famous actress Reema Khan and the veteran politician Sheikh Rashid.
Right.
And they found that paparazzi globally operate on the exact same incentive structure. They invade the solitude of public figures to capture exclusive, unguarded moments purely to boost television rating points, TRPs, and increase newspaper circulation.
So fame is treated strictly as a monetizable currency, and the researchers use a specific psychological framework to explain how this monetization works on the consumer, right?
Yes, they do.
It's called expectancy violation theory. And if I'm interpreting this correctly, it's not just about the paparazzi being annoying. It's about the psychological payload of breaking a social contract.
That's a great way to put it.
Think about it like this. I want you, the listener, to imagine you get into a completely empty elevator. A stranger walks in, and instead of standing on the other side of the car, they stand exactly 1 inch away from your face.
Your heart rate would spike immediately. You'd feel a profound sense of alarm, discomfort, physiological arousal.
Exactly, because we all have deeply ingrained expectations about how humans should behave in social situations, especially regarding personal space. When those unwritten rules are violated, our brains have an intense, immediate reaction.
Yeah.
And according to this theory, the paparazzi industry makes its living by constantly and intentionally weaponizing those violations.
Yes. Expectancy violation theory, which was originally developed by Judy Burkan, maps perfectly onto tabloid culture. The violation itself is the product.
Wow.
When a consumer sees a photograph of a celebrity looking shocked, angry, or caught off guard, the consumer's brain registers that a social boundary has been broken. That transgression creates a powerful psychological hook.
Because we want to see the shocked celebrity, right? It shatters the heavily manicured, perfect image the PR teams built.
Exactly. It equalizes the power dynamic between the elite untouchables and the ordinary consumer reading the magazine in a waiting room.
So when a photographer jumps out from behind a parked car while Alia Shawkat is just trying to carry her groceries to her front door, the violation of her basic expected personal space isn't an accidental byproduct. The terror on her face is the exact commodity they're trying to harvest.
Precisely. They are mining her physiological reaction to a boundary violation. And the study makes a point to emphasize that this relentless pursuit of the boundary violation isn't just an emotional burden.
It scales up to physical danger very quickly.
It is.
The researchers bring up the most infamous, tragic consequence of this behavior, and framing it through expectancy violation theory makes it even more chilling. They cite the 1997 death of Princess Diana in Paris.
Yeah, that was expectancy violation theory taken to its absolute lethal extreme.
Photographers aggressively chasing a car through a tunnel, breaking every rule of traffic and human decency just to capture an unauthorized, highly valuable shot to sell to Western tabloids. That is the ultimate human cost of this economic model.
It was a tragedy that briefly forced a global reckoning. But as the Pakistani researchers note, the fundamental mechanics of the paparazzi industry never actually changed.
No, they didn't.
The demand for the uncurated, violated moment remained. Which brings us to the most uncomfortable finding in the entire study.
Wait, before we get to the ultimate source of the funding, I just want to say, stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Because the truth about who is to blame for this economy is a tough pill to swallow.
It really is. If you follow the money all the way upstream, past the photographers in the bushes, past the editors writing the headlines, the revenue ultimately comes from the public's mania for celebrity gossip.
Us.
Yes. The study states very clearly that the media is simply a supply chain. They are supplying what a celebrity-obsessed society demands. We, the consumers, are the ones funding the violation.
Okay, hold on. This is where I have to jump in because this argument feels a bit like shifting the blame. Yeah, I get the supply and demand economics, but we can't just casually blame the consumer at the end of the line. The study itself highlights that privacy is a fundamental human right, not just a preference.
That's true, they do.
They literally cite Article 14 of the Pakistani Constitution, which specifically protects the dignity of man and the privacy of the home. They bring up Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which guarantees respect for private and family life.
Right.
If we all universally agree at a legal and societal level that privacy is a human right, at what point does buying a magazine in a grocery store checkout line make me complicit in a human rights violation? Do we really believe that stepping into the spotlight means you implicitly sign a contract, giving away your right to basic human dignity?
It's the central philosophical tension of the entire deep dive, honestly. And it's the exact debate the researchers had with their subjects. Well, when a person chooses a highly visible, public-facing career, the legal boundaries of their privacy undeniably shift. The courts have repeatedly ruled that in public spaces, a celebrity's right to privacy is heavily restricted.
Sure, legally speaking.
But the study observes that the real shift is psychological. Society stops viewing celebrities as vulnerable, individual human beings. We start viewing them as industrial entities.
Wait, industrial entities? So we stop seeing Alia Shawkat, the woman, and we just see, like, Alia Shawkat Incorporated.
Exactly. The public views celebrities as brands that are constantly marketing themselves. And because the public feels like they are being marketed to, they feel entitled to peer behind the curtain.
And the paparazzi are just their agents.
Right. They act as the aggressive agents of the public, demanding to see the real person behind the corporate facade. But Reema Khan, the highly respected Pakistani actress interviewed in the study, she provided a fierce pushback against this exact line of thinking.
I thought her argument was the most compelling part of the interviews. She completely rejected the idea that artists are public property.
She did. She drew a very sharp, uncompromising line. She argued, essentially, my art is public property, but my personal life is not.
I love that.
She acknowledged that public curiosity is natural, but she insisted that a celebrity has the fundamental right to keep their family life, their relationships, and their secrets completely private.
What I found fascinating was that she even framed this right to privacy through a religious lens.
Oh, right, noting that in her faith, actively hiding and protecting someone else's secrets is considered a virtue.
Exactly.
That distinction she makes between the art and the artist's private existence, it just seems so deeply rational. Like, you are absolutely entitled to critique my movie, you can stream my jazz album, you can buy a ticket to my art gallery.
Yeah.
But you are not entitled to watch me eat a burger at In-N-Out.
Right.
But not everyone in the study agreed with her, did they? The politician they interviewed, Sheikh Rashid, he had a much darker, almost fatalistic view of the whole machine. He did. His perspective was incredibly cynical, likely shaped by decades in the political arena. He essentially conceded that a celebrity's life is inherently not personal anymore.
Which is pretty depressing.
Very. He argued that if anyone in the public eye actually manages to hide their private life, they aren't exercising a right, they are just getting lucky.
He practically surrenders to the paparazzi economy.
He does. But even with that cynical worldview, he still tried to draw an ethical boundary. He argued that the media's role is to expose things that matter to the public interest, like financial corruption or political malfeasance.
Which makes sense for a politician to say.
Sure. But he strongly condemned the practice of publishing candid, intimate pictures and destroying personal lives purely for the sake of television rating points. He argued that publicizing someone's bedroom or private relationships serves no societal good whatsoever.
Which brings us right back to Alia Shawkat and Brad Pitt. The tabloids weren't exposing corruption. They weren't uncovering a political scandal.
No, not at all.
They deployed a small army of photographers to expose a private romantic relationship that didn't even exist. They manufactured an entire reality out of a few museum visits purely for the rating points.
And in doing so, they demonstrated the immense unchecked power of the media to dictate narrative. They took a complex woman and reduced her to a prop in someone else's story.
It really is a massive journey we've gone on today. We started with the sheer absurdity of the Hollywood rumor mill. A 30-something indie actress with a rich 20-year career suddenly finds herself swarmed by photographers and plastered on the cover of Us Weekly simply for looking at art with Brad Pitt.
It's wild.
And to understand why that happened, we had to travel all the way to a university in Lahore, Pakistan, to uncover the deep-seated economic and psychological mechanisms driving it all.
We saw how theories like expectancy violation theory explain our own reactions. The paparazzi industry isn't just taking photos. They are actively mining the shock and discomfort of boundary violations because they know human psychology makes us unable to look away.
It's a sobering reminder that the flash of the camera isn't just capturing an image, it's participating in a complex, global, and often highly destructive economic ecosystem. The takeaway for all of us as listeners is to try and actively remember the human reality behind the glossy tabloid headlines.
Exactly.
The next time you see that candid shot, recognize that someone's expected social boundaries were intentionally violated to produce it. Behind the easy-to-digest archetype of the prom king and the new girl are real people who just want to eat their fast food and look at paintings in peace.
The machinery only works if we forget their humanity.
Which is why I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over long after this deep dive ends. We've established the uncomfortable truth that our attention is the currency that funds these paparazzi intrusions. We are the ones driving the TRPs, clicking the links, and creating the demand for the supply chain.
We really are.
So what would actually happen if we all consciously chose to stop? What if you made a daily intentional commitment to never click on a candid, unauthorized celebrity photo ever again? Could a massive collective shift in our own media consumption habits ultimately dismantle the entire paparazzi industry and defund the shadow economy?
It's a huge hypothetical.
Or is human curiosity about the elite, our deep-seated desire to peek behind the heavily guarded curtain of the prom king's life, simply too hardwired into our psychology to ever overcome?
That is the real question.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.